Leviticus chapter 13 verse 1 to 59. And the Lord spoke unto Moses and Aaron, saying, When a man shall have in the skin of his flesh arising a scab or bright spot, and it be in the skin of his flesh like the plague of leprosy, then he shall be brought unto Aaron the priest, or unto one of his sons the priests. And the priest shall look on the plague in the skin of the flesh. And when the hair in the plague has turned white, and the plague in appearance be deeper than the skin of his flesh, it is a plague of leprosy. And the priest shall look on him, and pronounce him unclean. If the bright spot be white in the skin of his flesh, and in appearance be not deeper than the skin, and the hair thereof be not turned white, then the priest shall shut up him that hath the plague 7 days. And the priest shall look on him the 7th day. And behold, if the plague in its appearance is stayed, and the plague spread not in the skin, then the priest shall shut him up 7 days more. And the priest shall look on him again the 7th day. And behold, if the plague be somewhat dark, and the plague spread not in the skin, the priest shall pronounce him clean. It is but a scab, and he shall wash his clothes, and be clean. But if the scab spread much abroad in the skin, after he hath been seen by the priest for his cleansing, he shall be seen by the priest again. And if the priest see that, behold, the scab spreadeth in the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is leprosy. When the plague of leprosy is in a man, then he shall be brought unto the priest. And the priest shall see him, and behold, if the rising be white in the skin, and it has turned the hair white, and there be living raw flesh in the rising, it is an old leprosy in the skin of his flesh. And the priest shall pronounce him unclean, and shall not shut him up, for he is unclean. And if leprosy break out abroad in the skin, and the leprosy cover all the skin of him that hath the plague from his head even to his foot, wheresoever the priest looketh, then the priest shall consider, and behold, if the leprosy have covered all his flesh, he shall pronounce him clean that hath the plague. It has all turned white, he is clean. But when raw flesh appeareth in him, he shall be unclean. And the priest shall see the raw flesh, and pronounce him to be unclean, for the raw flesh is unclean, it is leprosy. Or if the raw flesh turn again, and be changed unto white, he shall come unto the priest, and the priest shall see him. And behold, if the plague be turned into white, then the priest shall pronounce him clean that hath the plague, he is clean. The flesh also in which, even in the skin thereof, was a boil, and it is healed. And in the place of the boil there be a white rising, or a bright spot, white and somewhat reddish, and it be shown to the priest. And if, when the priest seeth it, behold, it is in appearance lower than the skin, and the hair thereof is turned white, the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a plague of leprosy broken out of the boil. But if the priest look on it, and behold, there are no white hairs therein, and if it is not lower than the skin, but is somewhat dark, then the priest shall shut him up 7 days. And if it spread much abroad in the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a plague. But if the bright spot stay in his place, and spread not, it is a burning boil. And the priest shall pronounce him clean. Or if there be any flesh in the skin, whereof there is a hot burning, and the living flesh that burneth have a white bright spot, somewhat reddish or white, then the priest shall look upon it, and behold, if the hair in the bright spot is turned white, and it is in appearance deeper than the skin, it is a leprosy broken out of the burning. Therefore the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is the plague of leprosy. But if the priest look on it, and behold, there is no white hair in the bright spot, and it is no lower than the other skin, but is somewhat dark, then the priest shall shut him up 7 days. And the priest shall look upon him the 7th day. And if it is spread much abroad in the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is the plague of leprosy. And if the bright spot stay in his place, and spread not in the skin, but it is somewhat dark, it is arising from the burning. And the priest shall pronounce him clean, for it is an inflammation from the burning. If a man or woman have a plague upon the head, or the beard, then the priest shall see the plague, and behold, if it be in appearance deeper than the skin, and there is in it a yellow thin hair, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a dry scall, even a leprosy upon the head or beard. And if the priest look on the plague of the scall, and behold, it is not in appearance deeper than the skin, and there is no black hair in it, then the priest shall shut up him that hath the plague of the scall 7 days. And on the 7th day the priest shall look on the plague. And behold, if the scall spread not, and there is in it no yellow hair, and the scall is not in appearance deeper than the skin, he shall be shaved, but the scall shall he not shave. And the priest shall shut up him that hath the scall 7 days more. And on the 7th day the priest shall look on the scall. And behold, if the scall is not spread in the skin, nor is in appearance deeper than the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him clean. And he shall wash his clothes, and be clean. But if the scall spread much in the skin, after his cleansing, then the priest shall look on him. And behold, if the scall is spread in the skin, the priest shall not seek for yellow hair, he is unclean. But if the scall is in appearance stayed, and there is black hair grown up therein, the scall is healed. He is clean, and the priest shall pronounce him clean. If a man also, or a woman have in the skin of their flesh bright spots, even white bright spots, then the priest shall look. And behold, if the bright spots in the skin of their flesh be darkish white, it is a freckled spot that groweth in the skin, he is clean. And the man whose hair has fallen off his head, he is bald, yet is he clean. And he that hath his hair fallen off from the part of his head toward his face, his forehead is bald, yet is he clean. And if there be in the bald head or bald forehead a white reddish sore, it is leprosy sprung up in his bald head or his bald forehead. Then the priest shall look upon it, and behold, if the rising of the sore is reddish white in his bald head or in his bald forehead, as the leprosy appeareth in the skin of the flesh, he is a leprous man, he is unclean. The priest shall pronounce him utterly unclean, his plague is on his head. And the leper in whom the plague is, his clothes shall be rent, and his head bare, and he shall put a covering upon his upper lip, and shall cry, Unclean, unclean. All the days wherein the plague shall be in him, he shall be defiled. He is unclean, he shall dwell alone, outside the camp shall his habitation be. The garment also that the plague of leprosy is in, whether it be a woolen garment or a linen garment, whether it be in the warp or woof, of linen or of wool, whether in a skin or in anything made of skin. And if the plague is greenish or reddish in the garment or in the skin, either in the warp or in the woof or in anything of skin, it is a plague of leprosy, and shall be shown unto the priest. And the priest shall look upon the plague, and shut up it that hath the plague 7 days. And he shall look on the plague on the 7th day. If the plague is spread in the garment, either in the warp or in the woof, or in a skin or in any work that is made of skin, the plague is a consuming leprosy. It is unclean. He shall therefore burn that garment, whether warp or woof, in wool or in linen, or anything of skin wherein the plague is, for it is a consuming leprosy. It shall be burned in the fire. And if the priest shall look, and behold, the plague is not spread in the garment, either in the warp or in the woof, or in anything of skin, then the priest shall command that they wash the thing wherein the plague is, and he shall shut it up 7 days more. And the priest shall look on the plague after it is washed. And behold, if the plague has not changed his color, and the plague is not spread, it is unclean. Thou shalt burn it in the fire. It has eaten inward, whether it be bare within or without. And if the priest look, and behold, the plague is somewhat dark after the washing of it, then he shall rend it out of the garment, or out of the skin, or out of the warp, or out of the woof. And if it appear still in the garment, either in the warp, or in the woof, or in anything of skin, it is a spreading plague. Thou shalt burn that wherein the plague is with fire. And the garment, either warp or woof, or whatsoever thing of skin, it is which thou shalt wash. If the plague is departed from them, then it shall be washed the 2nd time, and shall be clean. This is the law of the plague of leprosy in a garment of wool or linen, either in the warp or woof, or anything of skins, to pronounce it clean or to pronounce it unclean.